Turned off by itself?
Yeah. That's airflow meter, right?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Hello guys, welcome back. Welcome to Motortech. My name is Lewis, and in this episode we get all the fab work done. So all the intercooler piping, intercooler mounting, exhaust. That's it. There's not much to it. It's been pretty straightforward. As you will see, there's no big dramas, which is good. Good for me. Maybe not good for you as a viewer, but it's good for me. I am happy. It has gone well. So this is where we're at. Guys, see, I'm out of words. I'm out of words. I mean, it's been drama free. We've done the fab work. I'm up to the wiring. That's coming up next. I'm up to the wiring and tuning. That'll be on the next episode. So hang in for that one. But yeah, guys, fab work is done. Engine's in, rebuild. It sounds amazing. And yeah, guys, tune in and enjoy. Iron fitting, a weld on. It's going to go through there, and we're going to weld this from the inside. So just a quick tip: when installing a turbocharger on a non-turbo engine, and the turbo is water cooled like this one right here, when running your water lines, the best way to do it is to find one single line on the engine, preferably that matches the size of the hose that you're going to be using for the turbo. So find that one single line, split it in the middle, and then you will go one hose to one side of the turbo and then return to the other side where that original hose fitted. That way you know that you are maintaining a flow path. So we're getting ready to get the engine off the stand to drop it in. But just before we do that, I want to pump some oil into the motor and the filter, just to help it with the initial startup. Just so it will help to build up oil pressure a little bit quicker, which is crucial, especially with a freshly built motor. Wasn't too bad. That wasn't too messy. after doing up the flex plate with the rattle gun, I torqued it up and then we get ready to install the motor into the engine bay. The noise that you hear right now is the engine mounts falling into place, and as soon as they fall into place it lines up perfectly with the gearbox bell housing. That was fun. I'm just recording. Yeah, that took a bit to get it to line up. There's a few, you can't just drop the motor straight in and line it up with the box. You've got to go in an angle, dodge a couple of the transmission lines, which are pretty solid, and then sort of bring the back in line with the gearbox. So it was a bit tricky. All right, motor is in. It's all bolted now, secured onto the engine mounts, secured onto the gearbox. It's actually quite easy once you drop the transmission cross member, drop it down a touch. It's quite easy to get to all the bolts around it. Overall, the whole process wasn't too bad considering how big and heavy that motor is. Just between me and George, to manually handle it and move it around to get it into place, it was a little bit tricky because of the transmission lines that are really close to the bell housing, so you sort of got to sneak in around it and behind it before you can bring the motor back into alignment with the gearbox. That was the main issue really. Apart from that, it went in pretty straightforward. So it's all bolted down. It's getting late in the afternoon now, so we'll leave it there for today and we'll be back tomorrow for some more. This AC condenser has seen better days. So George purchased a brand new factory replacement, which will be taking its place. We just bolted the motor in, and I've just been bolting up the accessories and the wiring and so on. I had to put, we did fit some Bosch injectors, 1000 cc's. So they have with different plugs. So the injectors came with new plug and pins, so I swapped them over so we can get them all in and connected. What else? There hasn't really been anything exciting to show or talk about. We haven't had any drummers whatsoever. What a shame. It's been going pretty smoothly so far. So we're at the stage now. I just gave it a small crank. We're not trying to start the car yet. As you can see, we've got no radiator. But I was just checking that we got actual enough cranking power and cranking signal and all of that. So we got that. So now we're just going to top up the oil level, and then we just want to crank it a bit, try and get some oil pressure. This car does come with a factory oil pressure gauge on the dash, but they are very slow to operate. So I don't know how long I need to crank it to see this gauge move. We might just have to wing it at some stage if that gauge doesn't move, and we're just going to have to fire it up. So we're still on the factory ECU, which with the 1000 cc injectors, it can be a problem, especially with a freshly rebuilt motor. We don't want to run this with that much fuel, dumping that much fuel. So once I hear this thing fire, we'll probably run it just for 30 seconds or so, just so we know that everything's good, that there's no major leaks and there's no weird noises coming up. And once we're happy with that, we'll turn it off, and then we can continue on with all the fabrication. So start doing the exhaust dump pipe. So George bought a full stainless system, but obviously they don't make them for a 4.5 litre petrol with an aftermarket turbo kit. So it comes all the way up. It's for a diesel. So it comes all the way up, and then we're gonna chop the factory flange for the diesel turbo and make our dump pipe to join onto there. So it's a full stainless system. So I'm really looking forward to that part. I really enjoy a bit of fab work. So this is where we're at. So give us a second. We'll top up this oil and then we'll give it a crank. See what happens. Nothing.
Door pressure gauge doesn't work?
Don't know.
It used to work, I know that.
So,
But it's got that all thing that we bought is plumbed in right, isn't it?
sorry. Oh, you know what? I just remembered.
Door pressure switch, yeah.
Yeah, well, it should work.
Oh, this we don't need any. I know, that's the radio. Why are you taking this?
I want to see if there's oil coming out of here. If we know we've got oil coming out of here,
Yeah, we know it's pumped.
we're good to fire. Good to send it.
You sound excited now. Whereas I have this nervous feeling in my gut.
Have you got a little bottle, a little catch bottle?
Yeah. Ready?
Go for it. Keep going. Yep. Oh, yay! We got oil. Beautiful. Awesome. I was having my doubts there for a second.
Down any work?
I was doubting that I put the oil pump in.
I saw you put that in. We've got enough for this.
No, not for this. We'll only run it for about 30 seconds or so. So right here, I'm trying to listen for the fuel pump. So when George cranked it, I could not hear the pump priming. There was no alarm in this?
Alarm?
Yeah? No. Hang on, we've got a plug here that's not connected.
There's heaps of plugs not connected.
Where's this go? What do you go?
Does that go to here?
Oh, yes.
Is that for injectors?
Cha-ching. Not sure. Give it a kick, just like a little one. Yeah, that was it. All right, so go, because we've got to see how much pressure we got in there. Yeah. Did you turn it off?
No, it turned off.
Turned off by itself?
Yeah. That's airflow meter, right?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Because it went.
All right, no, that sounded all right.
Yeah.
All right, go again. Yeah, okay. Let's see. The reason it kept stalling is because the airflow meter wasn't plugged in.
Where's the airflow meter? You took it out.
But the problem is that because we have 1000cc injectors in there, as soon as we plug the airflow meter back in, the engine would overfuel, blowing all the black smoke and causing the engine to stall because of overfueling. Go. as I plugged the airflow meter in, a ton of smoke, man, came out. Alright guys, good morning. We're back. Okay, so we're gonna get started this morning with the exhaust. So first thing, we're just gonna remove the old system out and we're gonna put the new one in. Where are we? There we are. So this is it. So now we bought a full system for a diesel. So this dump pipe is to suit a diesel. So we're gonna chop this section up here. We're gonna cut that off, and we're gonna make our own dump pipe to mate up with this exhaust. The system that George bought, it's one that's runs straight along the chassis rail next to the gearbox. So factory, these ones, there's a section about midway through the car, it dips over the rail. Right there. So it dips over the rail, then comes along this side, and it goes through the wheel well. So as you can see through here, it comes up through here and it goes up. So George wanted to get a system that comes up straight along the chassis rail, between the chassis rail and the engine, and then it goes up. I had a look, it is a little bit tight, but obviously they're made for it, so it must fit. And in here, you can see there's not much room. So we've got the AC line, factory heat shield, and we've got to try and fit through here, so that's not gonna happen. So I've got to remove this bracket and move the AC line as far this way as possible. Mainly we're focusing on this section here, so I will have to bend this AC line up this way just to give me enough space to fit the dump pipe through. And then we'll mount the intercooler and then have a look as well as how many bends I'm gonna need and so on. I've got to mount the factory airbox. Get all my key elements in place, so then I know what materials I need to order, how many bends, what angles and so on, so we can get doing some fabrication. That's not bad there. That is pretty good. I think that's pretty good there. We've got heaps of space now. We'll just modify this bracket now. I'm going to straighten out this kink on this bracket, and I think I'll be able to reuse it on the other side of the shock tower, and hopefully it'll line up. Bracket a little quick, it should be good. Perfect. Just give it a bit of sand, a little bit of black on it. That's it. Perfect. I've got plenty of clearance there, plenty of air gap between the AC line and the exhaust. And I've got heaps of room now for the dump pipe to fit through.
Is the rest of it off?
Removing the factory exhaust was quite easy. Although it was old and rusty, it didn't take much effort to get it to come out. And installing the new one was much easier as all the components were nice and clean. It bolted up nice and easy, and everything lined up with all the mounting points and the brackets. As you see here, the new kit came with all the accessories, all the bolts and nuts, all the gaskets and the brackets that line up exactly with the chassis and the exhaust system. The only thing it didn't come with was the rubber mounts, which I had to reuse the factory ones.
The exhaust system is bolted up, the new one. So it fitted quite nice. It needed a little bit of adjusting, but that's expected. But yeah, fits quite nice. So this is where, from here on, this is where I've got to start modifying. So this exhaust system, it's a 3-inch to suit a diesel, turbo diesel. We couldn't find a 3-inch system to suit the petrol simply because they don't make them. There's no need for a 3-inch exhaust for a naturally aspirated 4.5 litre. So we've gone with the 3-inch for a diesel. The problem is that from here on, the dump pipe is to suit the diesel, which is roughly here where our manifolds are sitting. So I need to make it go that way slightly. So to do that, I've just cut off this section. So that's going to go there. And then from here on, this part here, I've rotated it slightly just so I can get it to point in the direction that I need it to go. And we'll weld it back on, and then we can continue making the dump pipe from the turbo. All right, guys, so I started making the dump pipe. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little bit tricky. It has been a while since I've touched the TIG welder and a grinder and made this sort of stuff. But no excuses. We're doing it, right? So, being a full open flange, I thought I'll, invest the time and try and get it as nice as possible, so we don't have any restrictions or any possible flow issues. Okay, so this is where we're at the moment. It has taken quite a while to get to this stage. It is pretty tricky, the shape, and trying to get the right bends in the right angle. So this is going like that, and then trying to make this go down to where meets the exhaust. It hasn't been a little bit tricky, but here you have it. So I've made one bend there, shaped it to suit, and then this is the other half. This is actually 2 pieces. We've got a 45 degree with a straight. That's gonna go like that. And we'll weld it all together, and then we'll just clean up the edges, and then we can continue from here. Alright guys, this section is done. It's all welded up. Came out not too bad. So now we'll go and test fit it onto the car and we can continue off and join it onto the exhaust.
One of these. I think that's it. I think they're the ones.
Yeah, looks like it.
Looks like it, eh? I mean, it'll keep turning, but it's just...
Good morning guys, another day. What's better? Good morning. All right, what we're up to, we finished fabricating the dump pipe. As you can see, that's all put together now, all lined up with the rest of the exhaust. Now, although it's stainless and it looks somewhat pretty, we've got to wrap it. We've got to heat wrap it. So at least this top section here, just this top section here, because the 80 series Land Cruiser has the accelerator cable going right through here. Let me move some stuff out of the way. So we've got the accelerator cables going right through here above the exhaust. So one is for the pedal accelerator, the other one's for the cruise control. So yeah, I will do a bracket just to get them sitting and holding up as high as possible, but it's still going to be a lot of heat radiating from the exhaust housing and the dump pipe. So we're planning on putting a turbo beanie here and heat wrap the dump pipe. That will help to add some sort of protection for the cables. So that's what we've got to do there. And I didn't get to record this part because I forgot my camera, so I was in a bit of a rush. But the intercooler is mounted. Now, I'll run you through what I've done just in case you happen to own an 80 series and you're planning on fitting a front mount. So this is your standard 600 by 300 by 3-inch core. This is one of the most common type of cores in the market for a while now, and they're pretty affordable, which is great. But the Land Cruiser's got very little room here to fit one of these. So first of all, we've had to massage here just so we can push the intercooler as far in as possible. We still have an air gap between the condenser and the intercooler, which you want an air gap in there. Otherwise the condenser and the intercooler might struggle a little bit. So we've had to massage this. This was quite easy to do with a ball peen hammer. It's pretty soft steel, so yeah, that was quite easy to do. I had to do the same on this side here, and we just got enough clearance now to slip in a silicone hose in there, and then we're going to come out and we've got to do a hole through here to go into the engine bay. We lose the support for the bonnet latch going from here to the bottom here. So obviously we can't run that anymore. So now the intercooler becomes the support. So in this case, we've got our mounting bracket, just drilled a new hole here. This is made out of steel, not aluminium. And so this is supporting the intercooler. Same on this side. And then we welded a bar across the two to support the bonnet latch. You've got to have this. Another option is to weld a bracket on top of the intercooler. Those were the two options. We went with this just so we didn't disturb the top of the cooler. Plus this is very thin. And if by chance you're slamming the bonnet down, you're definitely going to put a dent on the core there. So we thought it would be safer to go with steel and to the mounting points here. Then at the bottom, we've got our brackets welded to this cross member. That's helping to support the bottom of the cooler. And so it's been a bit of a mission. It was quite a bit of work to get this in there. Now the next big task is to try and mount the transmission oil cooler. So this 80 series is automatic, so it's got a transmission cooler, and we've got to try, this is the factory one. We're going to try and use this one. We can probably buy one that's a little bit thinner, but I think I might just be able to get this one to work. Now, unfortunately, it needs to go in front of the cooler. There's no real spots for it to go there or underneath. So that's where we're at. Nothing else has changed in the engine bay. Still looking the same. You heard it run, even though it was for a little while. It did sound good. So we're gonna try and retain the factory airbox as well. I'll go through that a little bit more once I get to that, but I think it'll be a really neat touch if we can keep the factory airbox. It is quite big. The intakes on both sides, on the guard side is quite large, and the intake that'll be going to the turbo is quite large. So I don't think we're going to have a restriction problem there. I must say, I'm not the biggest fan of this layout. So we'll have to monitor the intake air temps once we're ready to start tuning, or once we are tuning. Keep an eye on them. If it does seem like something needs to be done, then we'll revisit this again. I know it sounds a bit silly, why not do it now? But it's not my money that we're spending here. So we have gone no expense spared as far as the things that really need doing. So there's a good chance that this will be sufficient. You've got to remember, we're not building a race car here, we're not building a horsepower hero. So this might be sufficient, but like I said, I will keep an eye on it, on the intake air temps, and we'll come back to this if we have to. Aside from that, I'm ready to start doing my order for all the piping, to start doing the intercooler piping, the intake pipe. So this is where the factory airbox is going to sit. Now, it didn't mount back in its original position. I did have to drill a couple of new holes, and I used an existing hole for the bracket for the cruise control, the cruise control motor. So that lined up back there. I'd done 2 new holes on this side, and I did have to accommodate it as best as I could. So we can still fit our plastic intake snout that goes through here and it goes to the inside of the guard to the front. We should still be able to fit that in, and this should be nice and easy to get a hose, a silicone hose, to go from here to here.
So here we start welding our hot side of the intercooler piping. And as you can see, it's aluminium. I prefer aluminium over stainless. I have seen some people using stainless to do the intercooler piping, but I much prefer to use the aluminium. I find it easier to work with. It's lighter. Same properties as with stainless. It's not going to corrode. But it's also easier to put a bead, to roll a bead on the end where the silicone hose is going to clamp onto. It's a little bit easier to roll the bead on. I decided to make this section in one piece, from the turbocharger, one piece to the intercooler. It just minimizes the chances of blowing a hose on the boost. So less silicone hoses, less chances of things going wrong. And as you can see here, it lines up perfectly. All I did here was weld a bit of stainless steel angle, which was roughly about 30 degrees, and just long enough so I could slip on the silicone hose. And then we welded onto the top hat of the airbox, and it lined up perfectly.
get out of here around 4.
So we can't take it down to Craig's Home.
Alright guys, so as you saw, we're done with the hot side of the intercooler. So that all fitted quite nicely in there, and it's pretty easy to install. So that's all done. We've got our bulb here for our vacuum hose for the actuator, and our intake is also done. I modified the top cover so that bolts straight in there. So that's where that's staying. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out here. It looks very, I wouldn't call it factory because this sticks out quite a bit, but it's pretty good that we were able to reuse the factory airbox. And we can also retain this intake here, so that still fits in place, the factory intake there. And what else? All right, so now we're working on the cold side of the piping. Now this is a bit more tricky. It is very tight because we have the battery box that we've got to take into consideration. We don't have much room to go out. So if we look in here, we've got to make a sharp turn this way. The battery box sits right here. Lucky it comes up, this part here of the battery box comes up, so it does give us a little bit of clearance. And then we've got to go around underneath these brake lines. I did have to bend the bracket that way towards the driver's side a little bit, just to give me a bit more room to go underneath the brake lines. But this pipe is going to be short. I'm going to have to put a silicone hose here, because if I make this pipe too long, I won't be able to fit it back in. So this is going to be short, silicone hose joiner, and then from here we'll go up this way and then up through here and into the throttle body.
This is a nice simple way to clean your pipes before the final install. This is just to make sure there is no leftover aluminium shavings inside the pipe. I had to put a small kink on this pipe just to allow room for the breather hoses that sit on top of the valve cover, as you can see here. This section here coming out of the throttle body, it's 3-inch, and then it steps down to 2.5-inch, which is the size of the rest of the intercooler piping. This little tool here is what we use to roll a bead at the end of the pipe. This helps the silicone hose to stay on the pipe under boost. It will stop it from sliding off.
At Australia's exclusive Over 50s resort, you're invited to the grand opening of the Mirador Wellness Centre on the Sunshine Coast. Join us on Wednesday, March 5th for a day of
Local sporting club, and you want to share with us, you can do that. 911.fm.com.au. Go to local, go to
Perfect.
This finishes off the 2.5-inch section of the intercooler piping. This comes from underneath and wraps around underneath the battery box, and it will join the 3-inch section with a silicone hose stepped from 3 to 2.5 inch.
Alright guys, we just fitted the blow-off valve. Quick quiz. Why do we install the blow-off valve as close as possible to the throttle body? Let me know in the comments. I want to see who gets in first with the right answer. Why do we install the blow-off valve as close as possible to the throttle body? Well, that's it guys. Well, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I know that I'll probably rush through some of this stuff, but yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. You can contact me through the email or just throw it in the comments. I'll see it and I'll respond as quickly as I can. But yeah guys, I really enjoyed this part of this project and I'm gonna enjoy the next one as well. Make sure you tune in, make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. But yeah, the next episode guys, we're going to be taking care of the wiring and the tuning. We are going to be doing a road tune, so that'll be interesting. I have done quite a few in the past, so I'm not too concerned. But yeah guys, thanks for watching.